start, and we should be good. Yeah. Awesome. There we go. Hello. uh, how is everyone doing? Now there are 3. Yeah, there are. Oh, nice. That is quite pleasant. It's nice having people already here. How y'all doing? Ooh, we're getting up to 5. I'm so popular. Like, this was actually something that I was reflecting on the other day, where, well, hello, Blue. It's wonderful to have you here. Something that I was reflecting on was, there's a colleague of mine that's also trying to get into Twitch streaming, and he was saying, you know, I only have like 4 consistent viewers, and I've been doing this for several months, and I was thinking, well, good evening, Ruth. It's wonderful to have you here. And that and my colleague was saying, you know, it's I've only been getting 4 for the last several months, and I'm like, think of it this way. Having 4 people at your place is a fair amount of people for anything. Like, you don't need to have 30,000 people all crowded in your house in order to be successful. You know, I think it's really awesome to have the people that are here just engaging with this kind of content. And just here to vibe, talk about stuff. Yeah, so it's a really chill time to relax a little bit, unwind, get out of our heads for a minute, and take a deep breath. Oy vey. But here we are. To err as human, to really screw things up requires a computer. You underestimate my power. I can really screw things up by myself. Thank you. Nah, this last week was such a nightmare for me. Like, just the last couple of weeks, I've been having a really challenging time sleeping, just because all of my dreams have been very stressful. But that's also because my life has been very stressful recently, and my body has just told me directly, no respite for you. So I've been doing what I can to step away from things and figure out plans of action that can lead towards real progress. But that being said, just in terms of the content, I started actually experiencing a burnout of sorts from music content specifically, because I've just been doing music that everybody wants me to react to, and every time I listen to a lot of the different artists that people are saying, you need to listen to this, you need to react to this, and I make the videos for them, I can't post them because I know that they're going to be horribly received. Because it's just not music that I can really appreciate. Like, just because I'm an opera singer doesn't make me above everybody else in terms of what good music is. Very similar to, I'm just a guy that likes his own flavors of music. Like, I like chocolate ice cream and vanilla ice cream and coffee ice cream, and my partner really likes cotton candy ice creams, and my mother really likes Jamoke almond fudge ice cream, and we all like different flavors of things, and we don't need to like each other's flavors in order to like all of these different flavors. And the point of where I'm going with this is that just because I have an extensive background in music and I understand music theory pretty well and music history and all of these things, it doesn't mean that my musical tastes or what it is that I like and don't like or what it is that I can really appreciate on a way that really excites me. Like, not too long ago, I was listening to Gabriel Henrique, and I think that he has a wonderful voice, and he has a wonderful, he has wonderful control over his voice as well, and he has a very expansive range. He's very similar to Dimash in that way. But it just didn't do it for me, I thought his voice just, it didn't excite me in any real big way. And I couldn't put that kind of video out because I knew it would be very poorly received. People would be like, you don't understand how amazing this is. He's a godsend. He won all of these things. And I'm like, well, a person can win competitions. A person can be viewed as an exceptional musician, and that doesn't make them any less of an exceptional musician. They absolutely are. But just for me on an individual level, it just doesn't mean that my tastes align with their style of music. It's very similar to, there's a lot of really incredible beatboxers out there, but their style and approach to beatboxing is not necessarily something that I really dig, even though I love beatboxing. And it's very much the same with vocalists. There's a lot of there's a lot of genres of music, actually, that I can really appreciate, but it's much harder for me to appreciate because those particular genres of music, are so inundated with very specific types of vocalists that I just can't really get behind. But there are the occasional few within those genres of music that I really, really do appreciate. Like, one genre of music that I really have a much more difficult time getting behind is rap music or spoken word with a very simplistic melody or beat under it. I can appreciate artists like Eminem, like Ren, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I really love listening to Eminem and Ren. It's more like they're oddities within a genre of music that's more difficult for me to connect with, but I still appreciate what it is that they're delivering and do my best to emphasize how much I do appreciate what it is that they're doing for their music. But that being said, it's still not necessarily flavors of music that I can really indulge myself in. Like, listening to Elizabeth from The Charismatic Voice blew me away. I really connect with well-trained and well-polished opera singers because, to me, very similarly to beatboxing, opera reflects an incredible array of potential for the human voice. And I'm deeply fascinated by the human voice, which is also why when it comes to messages within songs, it's not necessarily something that I really want to focus on. I'd much rather focus on the music, the capability and potential of the voice. Not to say that the message of a song isn't important. I completely understand and respect that, especially if it's to deliver a very specific storytelling. But overall, it's also the point of I am so fascinated by human potential and human capability, especially in the voice, that if you really focus on delivering a beautiful or remarkable product through solely what the voice is capable of, then I'm easily very connected with it. And that's why a lot of spoken word things don't really connect with me that much. Unless there's like a lot of very raw emotional power that's controlled within it. But even then, it's not really something I deeply connect with. I'm much more musical than message focused. I have, like, don't get me wrong, I'm still a very opinionated person on a lot of issues and things, but I'm also very neutral on a lot of things where I don't have an opinion about things because I'm not well educated enough in a particular message or philosophy or something in order for me to actually form and generate an opinion about that thing. So all in all, what I'm trying to say here is that just in terms of music recently, I've been experiencing a bit of a burnout, and that's why I created that community post to see what you guys might be more interested in, which would be things like, I'm really into anime, but after doing one of my last, filming one of my last anime videos and finagling with it and editing it, it's very difficult to get that through copyright. So I did a personal recording of me singing a song that I really enjoy singing. And that's up on Patreon, and when I actually launch it, that'll be there. There's just a lot happening, and a lot of different content I'm exploring. I started playing Kingdom Hearts again, and I'm really excited to do that, but I have no idea how that's going to go because that's a very long video that I would need to edit. It's just there's a lot of different ideas flowing around. There was originally another idea where I had an idea of just taking a conversation and just working through it on camera. And I'm not really sure if that's really interesting or intriguing, but the way that I go about it is it can get emotionally intense, but it's a real connection between my pragmatic self and my emotional self, and trying to create a common ground on generating actionable steps moving forward on particular issues, not just in my life, but in issues that friends and colleagues of mine that have been facing. And I think that can actually make for pretty good content depending on the way that I present it. So overall, it's a little challenging trying to figure out what kind of content that I'm going to start finagling my way into. You know, I might start doing comedy stuff, maybe. Not personally, but watching it and giving my thoughts on it. You know, I might be a professional musician, but I don't want that to lock me just into music. Very similarly to, I have a buddy of mine that's an audio engineer and also a mechanic as well. And he just likes taking things apart and putting them back together kind of thing. But he doesn't want to be restricted to just that niche, or those niches, I should say. So it's a whole process, and I'm sure we're going to figure it out. Whenever I get into music burnout, I turn to Weird Al. I love Weird Al. Funnily enough, I want to say three years ago, I wanted to see an a cappella group that I really liked, and they said, hey, we're performing at the Hollywood Bowl. And I'm like, awesome, I can make a trip out there. So I looked at them and I said, oh, well, they're just opening for an artist. They were opening for Weird Al, and I'm like, this is a 2-for-1. I got to see an a cappella group I really like, but then I also got to see Weird Al. Weird Al is such a legend. I absolutely adore that man. But I can't really do reactions to his stuff because I've listened to a ton of his music. Try Teddy Swims. I never heard a voice that moves me so much. Yeah. I'll definitely give him a go. Have you heard the charismatic voice doing beatboxing? No, actually. I was told to, one, look at her Poor Unfortunate Souls, which I probably will at some point. But outside of that, I haven't really watched a ton of the charismatic voice. Like, I know her format, her tea time. I saw her interview, or not interview, but like pairing with Peter Barber. And I saw her I saw her do an interview with, I think it was Lane from Voice Play, and just doing a couple of beatboxing things but I can't really say for sure that I've actually heard her beatbox, maybe produce a couple of sounds, but not actually do any kind of cadence or musical phrase or anything through beatboxing. So yeah, I'll look into that for sure. I have to go. Time for bed. Oh, well, have a wonderful sleep, Ruth. I'm really glad that you were able to stop by here. How cool is it that Michael Jackson asked him to do his own thing to Beat It? I thought Weird Al asked him. Michaels immediately said yes and gave him all of the information for it to do Eat It. Eat It is such a funny parody of his song. Eat It, I really like Amish Paradise. I thought that was hysterical. White and Nerdy with Key and Peele is great. American Pie Jedi Edition is a classic. Yeah, he's just amazing. I'll get off of my soapbox. But yeah, this week has been, well, these last couple weeks, I should say, have been pretty tough. Like, y'all ever have those feelings where there's a lot of different aspects of your life that you're able to keep together very well, but you know that it's very difficult to maintain them and keep them in that very well state? And then all of a sudden, there's a small domino effect of things that could go wrong did go wrong, and now you're working really hard to rebuild them, but it creates this intrinsic spiral into negative thought. And when that happens, then all of the things that you were focusing on in terms of keeping it together also begin to crumble, and now the full weight of everything going wrong in your life is just so present. That's a little taste as to how these last couple weeks have been recently. So I've been doing my absolute best to keep it together. And that's also been contributing to the burnout. And I really need a day to step away and travel to a hiking spot and just listen to the river, listen to the trees, animals. At some point, I would like to go on a camping / hunting trip, maybe. Who knows? We'll see. But until then, just some way for me to step away from screens. I'm so tired of screens. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love putting out videos, not just for myself, but for all of you guys. And I love listening to new music, and I love engaging with music in this way. And it's really wonderful. And using the internet does provide a lot of great utility for me, and I absolutely love that. But man, I have a much shorter tolerance for being in front of a screen than a lot of people do. And it's tough. It makes me pretty depressed when I'm in front of a screen for too long. And on top of it, it also just gives me a huge headache. Bleh. Sorry, I'm late. Fear not. Drive from hell going across the state. Oh, that's fun. Across the state of Michigan. That's... wow. Driving all the way across state. That must be a lot. Well, I'm glad you're here, though. Since December, I have been losing old friends, like, at least one every 2 weeks. I have been listening to Stepan Hauser almost non-stop. I don't think I've heard of that musician. I have been losing old friends. Well, I hope they're not dead. Or maybe they're just leaving your life in some way. But regardless, both of them are pretty painful experiences. So it sucks that you've been going through that, but at least you're finding ways to not just keep moving forward with your life, but in a way that promotes further joy, at least. Schedule a day or two away from YouTube and take a break. I worked in IT for over 40 years. I needed to get away from the screen. So over the last 3 weeks or so, I've been taking Fridays off so I can use that day as the day that I get to go to the shooting range with my sister, or and a day where after that I get to go home and see my family and enjoy some time with them. And then if I'm lucky, maybe grab some dinner with my partner. But honestly, it, like, on one hand, it feels like I should take 2 days. But then on the other hand, I'm really trying to build YouTube as a business. And I really need it to be successful. And I'm trying to get it as successful as possible, as soon as possible. But without skipping steps, I'm trying to do this the right way. And it's been very challenging recently. Like, over this past week has been... I've plateaued a little bit. And that's another reason as to why I really need to shake things up a little bit more. Like, I think the community of subscribers that I have that actively engage with the videos has been absolutely wonderful. But because of this plateau, this is where real grinding and real education comes in. I've already read a couple of books regarding understanding the YouTube algorithm and analytics and things like that. Thumbnail making. Speaking of which, my thumbnails really need to get updated. I've progressively been getting better at them, but I really need to start creating more dynamic thumbnails as well. Branch outside of that single photo. But who knows? But I feel like the moment I launch Patreon, that'll help a little bit. But I really need to create more engaging content that goes beyond what it is that I've been doing, because I think this plateau is more of a wake-up sign to say, this audience really likes this content, and this is what you've been reaching. So I really do like the idea of creating other types of content throughout the week, saying, these days I'm going to do this type of content, these days I'm going to do this type of content. But I don't want to make types of content that's just immediately going to get copyrighted. Meaning I don't want to just only do reaction content. Maybe some original content would be really, really good for the channel. And I think the best original content I could do would either go back to storytelling, which, to be honest, I don't think is the best idea, because that's a very, very niche community of people, and even then it's not really successful unless you have either a very deep, sultry ASMR voice or something that fits within that, like, another niche, or, like I was mentioning, just take a problem that many people, including myself, are or have experienced, and breaking it down into a more fun yet therapeutic kind of session. Like, I've had pretty negative experiences when it came to therapy, and that obviously doesn't translate towards everybody's own experience towards therapy. I think therapy is a really great tool and useful tool for many people. It's just, for me personally, it didn't really work out that well. But there were a couple of tools that I learned that I really, really dig and utilize a lot. And one of them is just speaking problems out loud and following not just my own emotional path, but following my own pragmatic path as well, and having a dialogue as both the therapist and the person experiencing the problem, the patient, the client. And just going back and forth between it being able to work out my own problems in a way that's real and authentic to me as someone who does know exactly what the patient is experiencing because I am the patient, but posing questions as the therapist. I think that could be a really interesting concept for content, but it's, you know, I'd have to test it. I'd have to see how that goes. But also, it's that kind of content can take a very long time to make and a very long time to edit, and that can set me back a lot in terms of other videos. So I'm still trying to figure it out, but it's really tough. Getting through copyright has been very, very challenging. Just in terms of a lot of videos. So doing original stuff would be great, but I have no idea what original stuff I could do. I don't have money for an accompanist to make my own music. And the only music that I have made is not something I'm necessarily very proud of, but it's something to get the ball rolling at least. I don't know. It's really difficult trying to navigate the course of this channel right now. Your colleagues are dead. Time catches up with us once we pass 65. Hauser is the cello player who's played in two. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's really rough. You know, it's very rough to hear that kind of news, but you know, I'm really glad that you've been hanging in there and exposing yourself to things that have helped you press forward. That's really beautiful. Yeah, and both of the cellists from Two Cellos are incredible. I really enjoyed your Elizabeth reaction / analysis. I subscribe to the charismatic voice, but have never listened to any of her performances before. Neither have I until that video. So that was quite a pleasant surprise. It was more to say she had and still has such a big following as an opera singer. So I had a very strong feeling that she was an incredible vocalist, but that just cemented it in for me, where I remember when I was in university, there was one of my colleagues, she performed Rachmaninoff's Vocalese, and I've heard that piece a few times before and many times after it, but her particular performance moved me so tremendously. And the Vocalese is just a piece that's sung on one vowel, but her cadential structure, her dynamic control, the control of her voice, everything was so polished and refined, and it just transported me to a world filled with nothing but heavenly music. And I've never heard anything like it, and Elizabeth's performance was very reminiscent of that, where it's just a full display of the human voice and what the voice is capable of should you take tremendous care of it and polish and refine the pieces of music that you're utilizing in terms of maintaining your voice. And I was very pleasantly surprised by hearing Elizabeth, for sure. Hauser and Two Cellos are who I listened to with my cat when she was having her worst diabetic problems. She really relaxed listening, waiting to feel better. Crazy, I know, but true. I believe you. music is unlike any other art I've ever experienced. You know, I've been around a myriad of varying types of art, whether it was through like I visited several different museums in my time, whether it was through sculpture, digital art, collaboration, just drawing or paintings or anything, and all of them have moved me in varying ways. And I've sat in on slam poetry, not haiku, haiku readings. I've listened to many different types of, not, oh my gosh, what am I thinking? I've read multiple books and things like that, or anything that you can consider art. I've probably engaged with it at some point. But music has always connected with me the most because you don't have to say anything. You don't have to particularly communicate anything. It's more just an experience of something. And you can communicate with music, and I see a lot of artists, especially nowadays, try to communicate a very particular agenda or message with their music. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but the way that I really enjoy engaging with music is through this purely primal idea. It's like the idea of it being a bone flute, one of the first instruments ever created for man, just to communicate ideas, a tribal drum. You know, like I was mentioning in, I believe it was another live stream, or maybe it was a video, I forgot. One of the most moving performances, live music performances I've ever seen in my life was Kodo, a taiko group, which is Japanese drumming. And it was just so powerful and intense and enervating in the most prolific of ways and profound of ways. It was really an indescribable performance. Another being, I actually got the opportunity to see Stomp live. And Stomp is a group of percussionists that use everyday instruments or everyday things, like being outside and using brooms to hit stop signs or something. And they just use all of the different aspects and all of the different sounds and crashes that everything comes together in order to create really unique and dynamic music. And that's the kind of music that I really love. Just connecting with, or it's more because I feel like, and I'm just speaking for myself, but I feel like a lot of people can relate to this. Just in the idea of, we spend so much time in our present day world that is so incredibly complex and nuanced, and we try to make things more simplistic by categorizing things and making things easier by compartmentalizing and labeling and all of these things, where I don't conform to any labeling or compartmentalizing or things like that. I think it's rather lazy, or making sure that things don't have really any nuance. But the thing that I really love about the music, that kind of primal music, is the fact that it takes you out of the rich complexity of the modern day world and just teleports you to this magical land of sound. There's no financial struggles in this land. There's no political squabbles in this land. There's no relationship tension in this land. For all that is within this land is potential, capability, is a perennial landscape of sound, endless possibilities. And I love being in that land, and it's very rare that I get the opportunity to actually visit it. And all of the music that I'm being told to listen to, when I do listen to it, again, I find things that I really appreciate and love about it, but it doesn't take me to that land. None of it does, because it's all about what modern music is. And modern music very much is, look at my vocal acrobatics, or look at the insane level of control I have over my voice. But it doesn't connect with me on a deeply primal emotional scale. And that, it's not that I think it's tragic, because it takes a great amount of work to refine one's voice to make it very polished and very good in order to execute complex vocal acrobatics, but it's not what I personally want out of music, and that's where I think the letdown is for me personally. Jeff has been reading a lot of stories like The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I saw that on his channel, and I was honestly very interested in listening to it. Obviously, I can't make that as a reaction video because that video is almost 90 minutes long. But the very first video that I was... Well, not the very first, but one of the first videos that I was going to make on my channel, which is actually on my channel now, is The Little Mermaid by Hans Christian Andersen. And I saw that Jeff Castellucci actually did do that reading, but the more long, complete version of it. I have a more compact, summarized version of it on my channel. But yeah, I listened to him do it and I loved it. His voice is so sultry, and the slight inflections of his voice as he communicates different character thoughts was quite charming, and I really, really loved it. Do I wish that he engaged a little bit more in the storytelling? Maybe, but honestly, I think the way he did it was superb as is. I really enjoyed listening to it. Plus the visuals of just the dark / royal blue waves just flowing. It was very calming, and I really digged it. When Daniel sings to us, my cat Hunter will come over and lick the screen. That's really cute. That's actually really sweet. So my partner actually has a couple of cats of her own, and I absolutely love her cats. They are so derpy and so sweet, and they've made biscuits on me, and they're so adorable, and I'm so frustrated that I'm allergic to cats, or cat dandruff, or cat whatever, just something about cats, but I'm allergic, and it drives me nuts because I love her cats so much. Even though I relate much more with dogs and I would own dogs before I would own cats, I really do love cats though. I'm I'm more close with dogs, but it doesn't mean that I'm not like specifically one side or the other in terms of a dog or a cat person. I love cats too. Voice play and Groff Castellucci don't seem to have copyright problems with their videos, but check out other reactors like Elizabeth or Sir Hairless. So voice play does have copyright problems, but I more often than not am pretty easily able to get past them. They're pretty generous about me using their music. But that being said, there are copyright problems with that. Jeff is on that same boat where I, especially recently, in videos moving forward, I'm just going to do this as a general rule of thumb. I'm going to record the videos separately and make them more opaque, maybe even reverse the images, just so I can make sure that when I do make claims on... Because every time that I get slammed for a copyright, I have to make a dispute saying I'm able to use this content because it is part of a reaction video and that's protected by fair use. But a lot of times, especially with artists like Ren, The Big Push, especially Pentatonics and Home Free, even in some of my Dan Vask videos, and I know that Dan Vask opens his music up for reactors, but in recent videos, like I want to say the last 3 or 4 I did of Dan, I've been getting slammed with copyright that has been immediately been getting rejected in terms of my disputes, and that's been infuriating. So in future videos moving forward, I am going to need to make the videos more rounded, more opaque, and if I can help it, I'd like to not change the format of them, where it's the initial reaction, a succinct post-analysis, and then the real analysis, where I then can make the video a little bit more clear, bigger, and because now I'm pausing it very often and providing thoughts. But through the initial reaction, I think I will have to keep it much more opaque and comment a little bit more through those reactions themselves, as much as I don't want to do that, but I have to if I'm going to start actually beating the copyright. It's just the copyright has just been killing me on so many of my videos, and I'm really sorry about that, but it's just what I gotta do. Maybe you could react to some of Peter Barber's work or something from his group, The Bass Gang. Well, I already have their hide and seek ding dong from The Bass Gang, and I thought that was a lot of fun. I think they did a great job with that. I listened to their Panic at the Disco, The Emperor's New Groove, or not The Emperor's New Groove, The Emperor's New Clothes. And that, so I really enjoy Panic at the Disco. I really enjoy that group. I think Brendan Urie is, or Uri, whichever, is a phenomenal vocalist, and I really dig the music that came out of that group originally up until now. I don't think they've really lost a step in that regard. So when the Bass Gang did a cover of it, it's very, very difficult for me to view the Bass Gang, like their arrangement of it, as something on its own and not compare it to the original. And when I listened to it, I thought and this is nothing against the group, but I thought the original was so much better than the Bass Gang's version of it that overall that video itself just left me a little disappointed. And it doesn't mean to say that the voices in the bass gang are bad or that the arrangement was bad. It was good. It really was. And the performances of each of the basses in that group were good as well. It's just it just didn't really connect with me and I couldn't get behind it. So I haven't been doing a ton of the bass gang stuff. But I will probably do more in the future because I definitely want to give groups more of a fair shake than I've been giving in recent times, especially if they're not going to completely destroy me with copyright. Plus, Peter has been such a great sport to me, especially. He was so kind and considerate in the interview, even before we started the interview, he was so considerate and we were emailing back and forth and he's such a great guy. And, you know, even after the interview, he subscribed to my channel and he really didn't even need to do that. But that just kind of shows the guy he is. And he's very considerate and, I absolutely should give his group more of more chances. But more often than that, or outside of that, I should say, I just really want to hear him perform operatic roles, to be honest. Like, I remember him saying at some point that he loves performing Don Giovanni, and I would love a world in which we did Don Giovanni together, where he was Don Giovanni and I was Leporello, who's Don Giovanni's servant, and Leporello is pretty much on stage just as much as Giovanni is, and I would love to do a full operatic performance of that opera with him, with us being the two lead roles of it. That would be so much fun. I think our energy would be outstanding because when I'm on stage performing, I'm very, very animated and I can move around a lot when I'm singing. And when he's performing, he has this demeanor that's a little bit more refined. Not to say that he can't move around as much. He absolutely can. But he's much more sophisticated in his gestures when he's performing. And oh man, I think our dynamic contrast would be so great if we performed an opera together. Oh my gosh, I would love to do Don Giovanni with him. But that's a hypothetical dream. I wouldn't necessarily say that that's something that would happen or even could happen, to be honest. Many YouTube channels that react to music will have to either take breaks during the video or will have to put a filter over the video. Yeah, that's absolutely correct, unfortunately. And I really hate it. What I'm probably going to do in the future is first make a... Well, actually... Yeah, I'd have to create a Patreon version and then edit it down into a YouTube version, which is probably what it's going to be in the future. But I'm still going to try to make it as enjoyable and just as enjoyable as possible for YouTube, because I'm very well aware that people don't have disposable income for Patreon. Kodo, like hearing the heartbeat of the planet. Seriously. Oh my gosh. Blew my mind at everything they did. It was incredible. Absolutely incredible. If I was an ethnomusicologist or a person who studies world music, I would be all into Japanese music. But that being said, I love a myriad of different types of musical instruments from around the world. So who knows? Maybe someday in the future I might get more into ethnomusicology. Have you watched the Blue Man Group? Yes, I have. Several years ago, I want to say in 2012 or 2013, I went to Chicago, and the Blue Man Group was performing in a theater there, and I got to see them live, and that was one of the most whimsical, fun performances I've ever been a part of. It it wasn't just music, it was them actively engaging with the audience with a bunch of whimsical actions and gestures, and the humor that they can have in their shows without saying a word is exactly what I love about the group. They're so entertaining and captivating. They're real entertainers, not just percussionists. And it was a wonderful show. I absolutely loved the Blue Man Group. And then I got to see them after the show too, because they take a lot of photos with audience members that want to take photos with them, and they're just really chill like that. So it was really cool being able to see them live. I absolutely love that. I'd love to visit Chicago again at some point. It was a very unique experience, to be sure. Many YouTube content creators will post their block reaction videos on Patreon. Keep that in mind when you get your Patreon up and running. Yeah, absolutely. Here's the main problem that I've been having in terms of that, which is pretty much when I upload a video that is immediately blocked on YouTube, what Patreon does is it takes the link of something and then uses that link to post it on Patreon. But if the video itself is blocked, even like if it's demonetized, that's not a problem. But if it's blocked, that's a problem, because the blocked video doesn't show up on Patreon. So that's a really big issue that I've been having recently, is trying to figure out how can I upload something to YouTube, and even though it might be copyrighted, even though it might be slammed with a bunch of things, that at least it's not blocked. And even if I keep it as unlisted or private, it's still going to be blocked. And that's the biggest issue that I've been facing recently. So I that's where I've been trying to figure out ways to get creative. But the reason why Patreon has been taking as long as it is because I keep running into obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, and I keep re-uploading and taking down and re-uploading and taking down, and it's been the biggest headache. But I've been getting through it. One step at a time. At least I'm actually figuring out little solutions that I can work through. Even if it's a lot of work, I'm sure it'll get easier over time. But until then, it's a work in progress, to be sure. Sorry I missed most of the stream. I'll try to do better. But don't apologize. I'm really happy you're here. It's wonderful to have you here, Rewop 300. Thank you for being here. It's wonderful to have you here. You saw Kodo live in Dublin. One of the best gigs I can only imagine. I've never had the opportunity to see them live, and I really want to. I'm so envious. I listened to The Little Mermaid by Jeff. I'm ashamed to admit that I didn't know the true ending before. Don't be ashamed. Most people don't. Most people's only experience with The Little Mermaid is Disney's version, and there's no shame in that at all. But yeah, out I love the fact that even outside of Grimm's fairy tales, that not all stories have happy endings. But that being said, I wouldn't even necessarily call the ending of Hans Christian Andersen's The Little Mermaid to be not a happy ending. I would call it more bittersweet, because it wasn't as if everything was terrible and it ends on a terrible note. It's just, she was happy and accepted her fate. And again, that ultimately, I think that that's rather bittersweet. Not just bitter or terrible. But it is pretty upsetting for sure. Peter, Barbara, Elizabeth, and Maggie. Yes, I've seen a few of Maggie's videos too. I think she's a lot of fun. Should get together and create a Night at the Opera series. I would love to do that. But that being said, I've tried reaching out to all of these people, but they're either very busy or just don't want to communicate. But I don't know if all of the... excuse me. If all of the, if we all have Venn diagrams, me, Elizabeth, Peter, Maggie, and we all just get the middle of all of our circles, the audience that's a part of all of us, to come together and say, hey, you should reach out to all of these other people, and then all of a sudden we actually are able to get in contact with each other and make something happen. That would be so cool. Seeing all of our personalities either mesh or clash would be a very interesting social experiment, especially for me as someone who's very awkward. But I would absolutely love to see it. I love meeting new people, especially people in the music field. So this would be really, really cool to do. So if all of you go over to these channels and say, oh yeah, Daniel from Good Evening Stories is such a cool guy, and he's so handsome, and you should absolutely, and he's such a great vocalist, you should absolutely, you should absolutely, you know? John, I would pay serious money. Go out! Go, my audience! Reach out to these people, because I have been trying. Not to Maggie yet, but Peter is very busy this season. I'm fully aware of that. Elizabeth is almost always busy, but I have reached out to her, and she hasn't reached out to me yet. But she did leave a comment on my last, the Charismatic Voice video, which I thought was pretty cool. So I am definitely somewhat on her radar, which is awesome. So she knows I exist, which is great. That is one foot in the door. Now it's just a matter of, collabing something and getting something really good going off the ground. Hit thumbs up. Yes, please. I would really appreciate that. Oh my gosh. Hyping myself up has gotten me so dehydrated. Okay, I will do that, Dan, but not sure about the handsome part. Well, I mean, you guys can hype me up. My mom says I'm handsome. No, it's fine. But more or less just saying, hey, you know, I like this guy. He does fun reactions or whatever. Yeah, just getting them more aware of my existence. I think that would be pretty cool. Because me reaching out, I'm sure they get tons of emails a day, and my email probably gets lost in them, or I'm too small of a channel for them to actually have it be worth it for them, which I completely understand. YouTube is a business for many of us. But whatever the case is, just incorporating me more on their radar, I think, is the most valuable thing to say in that regard. Can I ever ask if you've ever sang any Schubert? Yes, I love Schubert. One of the videos that I uploaded for Patreon recently, actually, is Der Doppelgänger by Schubert. It's my favorite vocal piece to sing of probably one of them of all time. One of my favorites of all time. There we go. It's slow. It's beautiful world building. It's very melancholic. Excuse me. And it fits within my range very well. And I just love expressing myself through that piece. It's beautiful. I love singing Schubert. Absolutely. I've also sung multiple pieces of his, one of them being Die Post, another being In der Fremde. Schubert is probably one of my favorite composers to sing. Erlkönig, that one's probably my favorite piece to sing, to be perfectly honest. I love it so much. If you were gifted $10,000 to put on a show, what 3 songs would you definitely play to put on a show? Well, I'm assuming that it would be on my channel, and that $10,000 would go straight towards getting an audio engineer to make the video itself sound really good, and an accompanist to make sure that I have lessons with them and actually sit down with them to work a lot of intricate details out through music to polish it to refinement and make it performance ready. And if I had $10,000 to do that, I would choose Erlkönig, Der Doppelgänger, and in between those, I would have an Italian piece, which would be Madamina, which is Leporello's aria from Don Giovanni. All of them are... Or maybe if I wanted to stick with German, I would do Die Post. I think Die Post is a lot of fun, too. And it's a pretty good transitionary piece. Or you know what? Maybe. Oh, maybe. Maybe. I would pick the Toreador song from Carmen. Bum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum ba-dum ba-da. Oh yeah. Votre toast, je vous pourrai rendre, Seigneur, Seigneur, car avec les soldats. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love that song. But it is a little bit out of my range right now, but if I practiced really hard, I can get it back in there. But man, I love singing that song. I never got to perform it on, like, in an actual opera, but I have learned the song, and it's beautiful. There's the Father's aria from Hansel und Gretel, and that is a really, really fun song to sing as well. And there's so many choices just to pick 3. I would more want to make a small recital. This would be my German section, my Italian section, my French section, my English section, and I would either have a Russian section or a Spanish section. I'd probably pick Spanish because Russian is still very difficult for me. But if I had a lot of time to work on it, then I would pick Russian for sure. I think we should tell Elizabeth about your wonderful reaction to her performance. Well, she's already aware of it. She already commented on it, and she thought it was a lovely reaction, and I was deeply appreciative of that. I pinned the comment. Why not post it here? Because it's not anything that I'm proud of. I don't have really great audio software. I don't have an accompanist. None of the music that I do would be polished or refined. I would only have pre-recordings, and I would have to sync up to those recordings, not work with an accompanist in order to make the music feel more natural and fluid for me. Putting it out onto YouTube, like, I would be more willing to put it onto Patreon because I know that the people there would be more interested in me as a person and not the grand general audience that would criticize me over, well, this isn't a great performance of this. And I'm like, well, of course not. I don't have any resources to make it great. Putting it onto Patreon is more of an experimental feature that I would include it on. But yeah, if I were to put something out onto YouTube, it would have to be, or I would only want it to be more based in something really good, something that I can really be proud of, you know? Good accompanist, plenty of rehearsals with the accompanist, really good audio engineering, mixing and mastering, things like that. So making sure that all of that is taken care of and executed well before I put it out onto YouTube. It doesn't mean to say that it won't happen, but it's just not going to happen anytime soon. Der Lehrmann and Hans Hotter is prob my favorite. Yeah, that makes sense. Those are good. Don't apologize for a burp, as my grandfather used to say, better out than in your eye. Surprisingly enough, the best burper I've ever heard in my life, and I have some pretty good guy friends that can burp, is my sister. Greatest burper. And it's not even intentional, it just happens. She's so good at it. Think postmodern jukebox style arrangement with all the accoutrements. Your charisma would be perfect for it. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that would be awesome. Dude, you stopped too soon. He's so disappointed. I know a man who knows a man. Oh, fun. But, oh, my goodness. All right. But with all of that said, I think we've had a really good turnout for this live stream. A really good turnout. I noticed that we were fluctuating constantly between 6 to 15 viewers, which I think is absolutely incredible. Hopefully we can even go plus ultra, above and beyond, and start reaching into the 20s at some point soon. But I think that this was a very successful live stream. Oh, hello, live, cool. Yes, hello, PJ, yes, thank you for being here. Unfortunately, you have showed up right at the end, but the entire live stream is here at your disposal, so please enjoy. But yeah, this is gonna be the end of the live stream. I'm starting to develop a headache. I spent a lot of time on my computer this morning filming and editing another video, and I think that after this, I'm just gonna spend some time working out and just get away from my computer for a little bit. So, Rewop, thank you for being here. Thank all of you for being here. Like, the fact you guys are here engaging in the comments and actually giving me prompts to talk about it means a lot. I love the fact that I don't have to riff off of just ideas that I have to create. So this has been awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here. Yes, please enjoy your dinner. Please do whatever it is that you guys have to do. It's been really amazing having you guys here. And I'll see you guys for either the next video or the next stream or whenever I see you next. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I'll catch y'all on the flip side. Take it easy, everyone.